Hey guys, Ryan Dement from Chasing Happiness Podcast. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today on the podcast, we have Roy Osing, excuse me. We butchered it and did it right in the pre-call, guys, but that's part of this. We're doing it live. Roy is a guy who took a startup to 1 billion in annual sales. So we're going to talk about that and also his book. He's also an author, an entrepreneur, executive leader who delivers practical and proven, audacious, unheard of ways to produce high performing businesses and successful careers. Roy is also a former president, CMO, and entrepreneur with over 40 years of successful, unmatched executive leadership experience in every aspect of business. Roy, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. I know it's a little bit of a wait, so thank you for waiting. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation because I think there's some great aspects of what you've done and in doing that we can share with the actual audience. But before we start, I know you're in beautiful you're north of the border of us. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, and then we'll jump into some rabbit holes.
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm in Whistler, British Columbia, which was the home of the 2010 Winter Olympics. We have a place up here, so it's fantastic. It's a little chilly. It's around 32 degrees in your language, zero in mine, which encourages me to seek out hot rum or stay in the condo. And so we have a place in Vancouver. And I've been fussing with business and career stuff for 40 years, and I'm trying to do my best to pay it forward. So, any opportunity I can get to share my experiences, which are certainly not textbook stuff, but they're practical, proven ways of lighting fires in people to get results. It's what I'm all about. So, an opportunity like this to speak with you and your audience about stuff that really works in the real world is a delight for me.
So can we start at the beginning and what got you into this space and what drove you? And when I say drove you, there's gotta be some why and some motivation in there. What started all that, and how has it snowballed over the years?
Yeah, I guess my career started like well over 40 years ago. When I got out of university, I joined a local telephone company. And of course, in those days, it was a monopoly business where you didn't really provide customer service. You took orders. You didn't really do marketing. You just flogged telecom stuff. And so I was busy doing things. And then all of a sudden, the world started to change in the telecom space. And I'm sure everybody can remember the days where the monopoly was under pressure and competition was desired and wanted. And so we started to go through that sort of metamorphosis. And it occurred to me at the time, and I can remember this very vividly, that we weren't ready. We were still a traditional telephone company that was really ill equipped to take on the onslaught of new competition and, quite frankly, the new things that people and customers were wanting. And so when I really thought about this and I looked around, I said, you know what? The organizations that I find interesting are organizations that try and do things differently. They're not organizations that copy everybody. They're not organizations that try to be sameness to everyone in order to reduce risks. In fact, my conclusion was quite the opposite. If you're not moving and shaking and changing, then that's probably more risky than not doing anything at all. So I
Yeah.
started to work through this thing, which I eventually ended up referring to as my mantra, which is be different or be dead. And the idea is real simple. If you can't be different in a way that's meaningful to people, then you're in for a rough road. I started practicing that very early in my career with every job I had, every position, leadership position I was asked to undertake. And I like strategically meandered my way through the organization and through times that inexorably led to more and more competition, where eventually the internet came and the space was viewed as being an exceedingly terrific opportunity. And I was asked to take over the business and be its president. And we started very early on and eventually grew it to 1 billion in annual sales. And I still get goosebumps thinking about this, man, because we did not use what I would call traditional textbook ways to do it. We used simple things that appealed to people's emotion and passion, which drove performance through the roof and got us the kind of results that we wanted. And so I'm speaking to your audience as not a theoretician, not as an academic, but as a practitioner, a how-to guy that actually created some really cool ideas that got stuff done. And that's what people get excited about when I speak to them. It's not complicated. People try and make the world complicated, right? Business complicated. It's really not. Okay, the problem is the inertia of the past creates that image, and it's so hard to break it. And one of the things I'm trying to do, Ryan, is break it, change the conversation. Let's have a different one. Let's do stuff that appeals to people, not pisses them off.
We are challenged by living in the past and having that past form or dictate our today and our future. And I think we can go down a couple rabbit holes, but I'll start with this. How do we challenge it? How do we really challenge thought process and change the way we do things, but also at the same time, how do we, and this is going to be a little strange, embrace technology, because technology is in, by all means, we're using technology today. I'm all for it, but it's given us bad habits. We think that if we put a video up on a social platform, we're going to become millionaires overnight. And then when it doesn't happen, we give up. That's part of that. How do we change that narrative and get back to some of those old fashioned roots?
Look at there's a couple of sort of pieces in the question. The first thing I will say is like, how do you get motivated to actually
Ooh,
do things differently?
I
Okay.
like that.
When we've been taught to not be different. Okay. The whole education system has taught us to conform.
Oh,
It's
yes.
based on compliance. Follow the rule, use the formula, and you will succeed. The reality is you may get an A, but that doesn't guarantee you anything when you get out in the real world. When I
No.
see PhDs, quite frankly, that I don't want, okay, because they don't have a mindset that's based on what is required to succeed in the real world. And so, in that context, in my experience has been if you do not have contrarianism, disruption, and being different running through your veins, it's going to be a hard slug, right? And when I say that, because it requires a certain amount of tenacity, energy, and pain tolerance that very few people, quite frankly, are willing to take on, willing to assume. You can't be different. You can't step away. You can't be contrarian and disrupt the past by continuing to do things the way you've always done them. You have to be prepared to take risks. You have to be prepared to be uncomfortable. You have to be prepared to perspire a lot. Okay. And so unless you have that as part of your DNA makeup, yeah, I say forget it, cause all you're gonna be doing is complaining about the system, and you're not really being prepared to change the system. Okay, so that's the first piece. In terms of technology, look, I have a very specific I love technology. The problem is the world seems to believe that technology is gonna solve all their strategic problems. And the
Yes.
reality is it won't unless you have a context to deploy it. People keep saying to me, Roy, hey, listen, what do you think about AI? What do you think about our social media plan? And I say, I don't have an opinion, Ryan. I don't have an opinion because I need to understand the context within which you're asking the question. I need
Okay.
to understand what you're trying to achieve. And then I'll give you my view of whether or not you're looking at the application for AI in a sense, in a way that makes sense to me, or that you're using social media that's consistent with your long term goals.
Mm.
And so we happen to be a tactical driven world, and technology plays into that, right? All internet functionality plays into that, apps plays into that. And so part of the problem is we need to step back and ask the question, what are we trying to do here? How are we trying to be different in a way that satisfies other people? What does that look like? And then take the step and say, okay, how can I use technology to do that? How can I use social media to do that? How can I use all the tools that we have? And we've never had so many tools, Ryan, to draw
Yes.
on ever. The problem is, to your point, and you're absolutely right, they dominate us, drive what we do as opposed to having a vision and a view of the future, which is what I call strategic context. We need to get that right. I need to do that first.
Do you think there's a balance between putting your strategic plan together and vision and then using technology to leverage it to scale?
Look at my view of the world that got me to a billion is really simple. If you don't have a strategic game plan, I don't want to talk about the tactic. Okay, there's no such
Okay.
thing as technology for technology's sake in my world driving you to a billion. Okay, one or two, you may get lucky. But the point is, you need some framework to decide on what kind of growth goals are you looking for? Who are you going to serve? Which customer groups give you the potential to do that? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the competition? Okay, technology, Ryan, and this doesn't differentiate anybody because everybody's using the same technology. So, what I'm
Correct.
saying to you is put that aside for the next 48 hours. I can help you build, and I just finished this with a client Monday, Tuesday. I can help you build what I call a strategic game plan in 48 hours that absolutely rocks and puts in context the kinds of tactical opportunities through technology and other vehicles that are
Wow.
available to help you to do that. But never start with that, okay? It's a bad habit. You talked about bad habits. That is an exceedingly bad habit.
So do you think if we I guess the question is, do you think we can adapt and overcome and be able to become strategic in thought process and put that framework together to be successful in life? Whether it's business or personal, do you think we have that ability to overcome?
I hope so. I constantly think of a world where people are driven by a context of success that they've created for themselves. And I marvel at what the possibilities could be in terms of personal rewards and a society with healthy businesses that create employment and economic wealth for everybody. Okay. I think about that and then I don't know, I'm disappointed and I get a lot of angst when I think about how we can do that, given the inertia that we've got from the past. Like it or not, guys like me are few and far between. Okay, my challenge is to try and intervene into a system that's got centuries, okay, of history in terms of teaching, compliance, conformance, cog in a wheel, follow the rules. That's the sort of vortex that I'm walking into, trying to say, hey, hang on a sec. Here's some other stuff that you could consider that actually works for me. Can I get your attention for a few minutes? And a lot of people say, okay, I hear you, Roy. That's really good stuff. Very interesting. But you know what? My boss is going to punish me if I try that because I live in a culture where conformity and compliance reign supreme, not innovation and creativity, where gargling Google is actually rewarded, where benchmarking and copying everybody is actually rewarded.
Wow.
The biggest enemy right now to creativity is Google. Okay, because when people are confronted with a
Yeah.
challenge, guess what they do? They go and Google
Google it.
who's best in class. And
Yeah.
that's why I come up with this gargling Google, right? You're a Google gargler if you do that. And I got to tell you, I'm saying, look at put it down. Have create in your mind, not copy. Okay, and it's hard to do because we've all been taught to do it. And so, is it possible? Yes. I'm not an altruistic dude, but I honestly hope in terms of the result of having conversations like this, okay? And I've done over 75 guest appearances in the last 10 months. My hope is that some small part of the conversation will excite somebody to go, huh, I'm going to go check this out and maybe give it a try. And over time, we can move people from that middle of the bell curve of sameness, Ryan, over to the
Mhm.
right hand side of the normal distribution curve towards disruption, contrarianism, and being different. That's my hope. I'm going to keep
You
working at it, man.
you've got my attention because it's truly a struggle. And I would say as a entrepreneur, small business owner, talk about attention span. I have it as a gnat sometimes, and making sure that I'm being strategic. On the other side of my camera, I've got a whiteboard that has goals on it that are broken down daily, monthly, quarterly, and annually. You've gotta have a vision. And prior to being an entrepreneur, I was in corporate America for 20 plus years. Corporate America never taught me how to be visionary and strategic in thought process. It taught me how just to I call it doggy paddling because that's all I really did. It didn't teach me how to be a leader. It taught me how to be a manager. I had to learn all those things along the way. I just think and I guess this is where I'm going to come back to you and what three things or nuggets can you share today or we can discuss that could help people start back on this path to where they're getting strategic in life, but also getting away from the norm and, like you said, moving over to the right side of the bell curve?
But one of the things is you literally gotta stop gargling Google. Okay, this is a silly little thing, okay, but I'm not kidding you. It's from an implication point of view, it's hugely important. Okay. Because if we put that aside, when we're confronting a new challenge, then what are we left to do? Oh, gee, we're left to create and use our own devices to solve a unique problem here. Okay. So, as a silly little thing, that's one thing. Another thing that's really worked for me, and again, this is silly, it's not strategic. You won't find it in any other textbook but mine. And that is look at life and challenges through a be different lens. Every time I'm confronted with something to do, I always ask myself, how can I do this differently in a way that people care about? And the point I want to make here to
Mm.
everybody listening, this is not about narcissism. This is not about what you think of yourself. This is about how you can be unique and serve people in a way that they care about. That's what this whole be different journey is. Some people say, I'm different, Roy. I've got yellow hair. I said, oh, good. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay. I don't care about the color of your hair. I don't care about your pronouns. I don't care about your sexual preferences. Good on you. You live you. But when you
Yeah,
talk about being different, it's all about serving others in a way they care about. The word care about,
yeah,
okay, is
love
the
that.
operative word. And I look at everything that way. All right. And so one little thing that your audience can try is look at tomorrow when you get up, okay, commit to do one thing differently. Ask yourself the question, how can I do this in a way that nobody else has thought about? How can I do this in a way that surprises people around me? There's all sorts of triggers for be different. One of the biggest ones is surprise. If I can surprise you, that typically means I've given you what you don't expect. And in brackets, isn't that a surprise? Okay. So
Yeah.
use this whole surprise motivation as a way to do that. And after a while, hopefully that becomes second nature. Now, some people would say to me, Roy, look at, I sit in an organization that punishes that. Now, what do I do? Okay. And I will say to you that there are certain things in life you can control. There's other things in life you can't control. You cannot control how your boss thinks. You cannot control all of that sort of stuff. But one of the things you can do is you can start to behave in a different way. And I guarantee you, they will notice. Now, they will be interested, particularly in what you're doing, if you start to perform miraculously. Look
Mhm.
at the end of the day, thoughts degenerate into crude deeds. And if you are crude deeding it in a way that absolutely benefits everybody around you, why wouldn't people listen to you? They will. Okay, so think about performance. Look at being different is a means to an end. In my world, it's a means to that yields high performance because nobody else is doing it. Okay, it's a differentiation tactic. And so don't gargle Google anymore. Take the be different lens and start asking yourself the question and just be guided. Look at it's this is a world of baby steps. This is not a silver bullet world here. Okay, that what we're talking about. This is a lifetime journey in an organization. It's a cultural change. These things do not happen quickly. So you need to be patient, but you need to be relentless. You need to be like unforgettable. You need to be remarkable, right? You can't be put off. You cannot be put off. You need to keep going. If you're not willing to do that, it's simply going to be a tough march for you.
I think we've lost that because it's one of the things I talk about on my social channels is being persistent and consistent. In life, we get knocked down every single day. It's okay to have a sad moment or a woe is me or whatever, but you got to get back up and then you learn from that fight and you decide you're moving forward and you're going to better yourself. We seem to be a society that as soon as we have pain and problems, we just give up because we expect it all to come easy. And I think that's why your story and what you're sharing is so impactful to me just by listening to you and watching you is that you're motivating me even more to go even further because there's days where it's, man, I'm getting my butt kicked all over the place. This morning, I'm telling you, I've got fires to put out. But guess what? That's just part of life for me. If I get knocked down, I get back up. But it wasn't always that easy for me. When I was at like I said, when I was in corporate America, I didn't have that resilience in me. It just wasn't there. And I think with change, time, effort, but also learning that I could get through a lot more by doing these things and experiencing these setbacks has changed me. It just
Yeah.
it's fundamentally changed me from the inside out.
Yeah, and good for you. I think that's a great story, and you should be commended for that. It's not easy. There's a lot of people that don't even want to start, okay,
Yeah.
because they think about the negative consequences at the end, the potential negative. So they rob themselves. The unfortunate things, the opportunity cost of not trying to go down the path are huge, but you never know what they are because you don't choose to do the opposite. But you know what? They're simple little things, okay, that you can try. We talked a couple of them. Okay, this whole notion of doing a 180, which I call contrarianism. Other people call it different things, but doing a 180 is huge. Look at Walmart is a fairly well-known company. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
the founder of Walmart was a guy called Sam Walton back in
Mhm.
the day. What
I've
he
read his
said basic
autobiography. His
Yep,
autobiography is great.
I know. And one of the things that he talked about is, you know what? There are incredible strategic opportunities available if you simply go in the opposite direction of everybody else. Try it. Okay, give it a try. Think about the possibilities of going to gate. Have you ever heard of the Heart Attack Grill in Las Vegas?
Oh, yeah. I used to
Okay.
live in Vegas. I know exactly where it's at.
Okay, boom. So now they have an octuple bypass burger,
Mhm.
Ryan. So it's more than just the triple bypass burger. Here's a business and an owner that says, you know what? I'm going against the healthy lifestyle, okay, flow. I'm going to build interest. I'm going to wow people around an absolutely outrageous thought of building a business around if you're over 350 pounds, you don't have to pay. Okay. Having triple bypass burgers and flatliner fries to in absolute lard to accompany the thing, having waiters dressed up as nurses and doctors,
Yeah.
the full meal deal. Imagine what is flowing through his veins every day. Okay, it's the I'm going to look for something. I'm going to create something. I'm not going to imitate. I'm not going to gargle Google. I'm going to create. And so the challenge is to figure out the little trigger points and the little tactics to get there. Okay. Don't gargle. Ask yourself the question. Step out, right? Help somebody. Find a mentor that's actually done something. Now, this was extremely valuable to me, but I did not look for a mentor with a whole bunch of letters after their names. Okay, because typically to me, somebody with all of those letters hasn't done a hell of a lot. They may be really good thinkers, but they've never run $1 billion a year business. They've never been in the trenches with the front line. They've never fought warriors on the battlefield. And that's what business is all about. So I
Yes.
wanted to find somebody who played in that space and who won and performed in a high manner in spite of it. And so I say to you, find a mentor out there that is actually a practitioner, a doer, right? Somebody who excels in execution, not the thought process. Look at winning in the world now is my world anyways. Getting it just about your plan and executing it better than anybody else because results come through execution. But we're not taught to do that either, Ryan. We're taught to get the plan perfect. Help me
Yes.
understand how you can perfect imperfection.
Uh, you can't. That drove me crazy when I was in corporate America that people would not take action unless it was perfect, and I'm like, "Oh, man, are you kidding me?
It
You're never
doesn't.
gonna get anything done, so I have to do your job too?" No. And that's why entrepreneurship works well for me. But can we go back to mentorship and finding a mentor? Because there's a lot of people out there that talk a great game in that space, and it's a very convoluted space, as I would say. How do we find those mentors? I know you want somebody that's taken action, that's a doer. Are there places we can look for those mentors?
It's like you got to do your work. You got to do the research. Okay. The good news is if you're looking for one, then you're going to be able to sift through the what I would call the IQ dudes and nothing else. Okay. You're
Okay.
looking for people that are influenced by the right side of their hemisphere in their brain, passion and emotion. And at least if you have that as an objective set, that you're going to filter out a lot of quote unquote bad mentors for you.
Okay.
But there are a lot of ways of doing it. Everybody lives in a community. Everybody lives in a community with businesses. Everybody lives in a community that has some sort of education system. And so what I say to you is go do some work. Go seek out somebody in those businesses, preferably the leader who is absolutely rocking in terms of doing things differently. I'm not talking about revolutionizing, but find somebody who incrementally thinks about doing something different, because when you put all those increments together, it's a pretty amazing achievement.
Yeah.
Okay. Associations. Okay. Business associations. Go join an association, get to know, okay, some of those people and sift through them and find the doers and achievers. I call it, you need MBAs, but not the traditional MBAs, Ryan. You need masters in business achievement. That's the MBA that Roy wants you to get. Somebody that's actually been there and done it, and just go and do some research. Look at, you'll be so far ahead because today you're not doing it. Today you're
Yeah.
being influenced by a world that says the most valuable people to you are the people with the PhDs. And I got to tell you, my friend, that's hogwash.
Oh, I agree
Hogwash.
wholeheartedly. This is all it all boils down to leadership, and I know we talked on a pre-call about this a little bit, is you have a book out, and I'd like to discuss it further. I'm just gonna segue right into it. We're just gonna jump right into the book. So tell us a little bit about the book and the leadership aspect because that's huge.
Yeah, my book, I'm excited about it and appreciate the opportunity to speak about it with guys like you. It's really valuable. It's called Be Different or Be Dead. So it's the seventh book in my Be Different or Be Dead series. And it's called The Audacious, Unheard of Ways I Took a Startup to $1 billion in Sales. So look at, in a word, it's a how-to book. It's literally a compendium of everything that I did in my world as a leader to actually get an organization to $1 billion in annual sales. Okay, to take advantage of marketing, sales, strategic planning, customer service. It basically covers the gamut of functions of an organization that need to work together in harmony to drive superlative performance. And it's, as I say, it's not a blue ocean kind of book, right? That exists way up there in the stratosphere, right? It's a red ocean book down on the ground, the things that you need to do as a leader to actually influence people and get high performance. And it's out there. I having fun talking about it. Now, the leadership piece, really, everything we've talked about so far defines the certain elements in the dimension of leadership. But one of the things specifically that occurred to me really early on was the fact that this is going to be a game. If I really want a lot of performance, this is a game of the many small things. And so I discovered there's no one thing, right, that drives performance. It's a lot of things that light fires in people to make them want to do things differently, make them
Mhm.
want to do. So let me give you an example of a silly little program that I came up with, which I called a cleanse the inside. So cleanse the inside is a quote unquote program. It's really a cultural element that tries to reduce friction on the inside of the organization that prevents delivering value to customers. So if you thought about that, you think about things that, wow, a lot of organizations have a lot of internal garbage and bureaucracy and grunge and crap that prevents the product, for example, getting through that system into the customer's hands. That's part of the cleansing piece. And so what I reasoned was, wow, if we can increase the viscosity of processes and systems on the inside, customers will get served better. And eventually that's going to lead into what? Better
Better
performance and what? More revenue. Okay. So
Yes.
all this stuff, Ryan, was driven by the need to get more revenue. The other thing within the cleanse umbrella was something that I called kill dumb rules. Now, a dumb rule is a rule or policy that makes absolutely no sense to a customer, right? And for any of you business guys out there listening, if you actually think that you don't have dumb rules, you're not looking close enough in your business because every business has a bunch of dumb rules. Some dumb rules can't be changed because there's legal requirements, blah, blah, blah. But imagine what would happen if you could reduce the number of rules that actually force you to say no to a customer by 25%. Do you think you would be better off? And
Oh, yes.
of course,
Yes.
the answer is yes, but you wouldn't believe the pushback. We can't do that because blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you can. The real issue is you don't want to. So that's an example of a leadership thing that I did that first of all was so effective. And secondly, just people just went crazy with this. I had dumb rules committees throughout the organization. And by the way, this was 8 or 9,000 employee business. It grew to that. So it wasn't small. So I had dumb rules committees all over the operations part of the business. I had dumb rules contests where we rewarded, the committee that came up with the stupidest policy and successfully eradicated it. And I would show up in the workplace with this white t-shirt with dumb rules on it with a big X through it. And I'd be out promoting that all the time. Little thing with big results. Little things create big results. They're not big plays, Ryan. They're small, passionate, emotional getting plays that when you add them up, it is a revolution in terms of culture and achieving performance that is just like unbelievable.
That's awesome. We will link in the show notes to your book. I'm guessing it's on Amazon?
Yeah, it's on all the major
Okay,
channels,
perfect.
Amazon.
We could talk for hours on this, and we're coming in to ramp this up and land this plane.
I
So,
know.
with everything that you've done and you're doing to end this all out, if the listeners take one thing away from this whole podcast, what would it be?
Be different. Look for ways to differentiate yourself from the humdrum, the crowds, the herd around you, because the nucleus of growth and success is being different, differentiation. And one of the things that should excite you is that most people aren't doing it. Okay, so reaping the rewards of this is something that is well within the grasp of everyone, and you can do it. You can do it. You can do it in your career. You can differentiate yourself from the employees around you. Okay, by doing something the organization needs and cares about in a way that's different from everybody else. Again, this is not about what you think about you. This is about what you want to do for other people. Okay, so I would say write be different down tomorrow or this afternoon. Ask, how can I do something differently? And tomorrow, ask it again. Get really comfortable with the pushback that you're going to get because you will, and you will reach a moment of truth where you're going to have to decide whether the benefits warrant the pain that you're going to endure because it will be painful.
Oh, it will. That is a great place to end. I thank you, sir, for coming on. Love the conversation. Love what you're talking about. Love what you're doing. Love what you've done. I don't know what else I can say. There's just a lot of love in there. I just you're different, and that's what's so great about it because you're going against the stream, and that's where I'm at. I like going against the stream myself. I'm not afraid, and you're out there telling a great story, but you're also showing people how to do it, and you're bringing value.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate you inviting me on and allowing me to touch your audience. And I hope I added some value.
You sure did, but before we go, best place if someone wants to reach out to you and connect with you?
So I have a website, bedifferentorbedead.com, and some come visit me. I blog almost every week. So there's a ton of content on what I believe in terms of be different or be dead. I've been doing this since 2009. So
Okay.
there's a lot of content there that people are interested in taking a look at the books that I've written and the latest one. And you can order it through there if you want it as well. There's a page on that. And I also have an email, roy.osing@gmail.com. And I'm really happy, Ryan, to have a conversation with individuals. I have people sending me emails on what they're doing to differentiate themselves. And we have a
Oh,
conversation
cool.
and I can actually provide some perspective on what they're doing. And hopefully that adds value. I'm quite willing to do that as well.
That's great. I will put both links in the show notes along with the book so everyone can get a hold of you. Thank you, sir, for coming on. Love the conversation. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Ryan. Cheers.